This is your 420 Radio News for Tuesday, March 4th, 2014, brought to you by the National Cannabis Coalition. I'm Russ Belville. The Washington, D.C. City Council has voted to decriminalize personal marijuana possession. Current laws in the district treat possession of an ounce of marijuana as a misdemeanor and 6 months in jail or a $1,000 fine. After a nearly unanimous vote, the council agreed to make marijuana possession a civil fine of merely $25. The vote also reduces the penalty for public pot smoking from the same 6-month or $1,000 misdemeanor to 60 days or a $500 fine. Experts conclude the passage of the bill will eliminate the probable cause police officers have to arrest someone for the sight or smell of marijuana itself, but officers would still be able to make arrests if they smell or see marijuana smoke. Said Councilmember Tommy Wells, who is running for mayor, quote, "I am not an advocate for the use of marijuana in public or private, but an end to the criminalization and disenfranchisement of majoritively African-American D.C. residents," end quote. Statistics show that 90% of marijuana arrests for possession in the District of Columbia are African Americans. The New Hampshire House Committee on Criminal Justice and Public Safety advanced a decriminalization bill today. New Hampshire is the only state in New England that treats personal possession as a crime. Any amount of marijuana is a misdemeanor that earns up to a year in prison and a $2,000 fine. House Bill 1625, which is expected to pass when the House votes on it next month, reduces possession of an ounce to a civil fine of $100 and reduces cultivation of 6 plants down from a felony to a Class A misdemeanor. According to polling in January by Public Policy Polling, 62% of New Hampshire voters approve of such decriminalization. Said Matt Simon, who heads New Hampshire's operations for the Marijuana Policy Project, quote, "Nobody should be saddled with a criminal record simply for possessing a substance that is objectively less harmful than alcohol. This should be the year New Hampshire brings its penalties into line with the neighboring states," end quote. The Georgia House has passed a bill legalizing only high CBD, low THC medical marijuana. On a 171-4 vote, the House approved the bill that reactivates a 1980 medical marijuana law for sufferers of cancer and glaucoma and adds certain seizure disorders. Patients would only be able to access liquid forms of high CBD oil from just 5 research hospitals in the state. Representative Sharon Cooper, chairwoman of the Health and Human Services Committee, warned that the research hospitals may balk at the program for fear of losing federal funding or even being federally prosecuted, but she supported the bill. Representative Alan Peake, the bill's sponsor, emphasized how tightly controlled the program would be, saying, quote, "It's not a slippery slope toward legalization of cannabis for recreational use. I stand firmly against that direction and will fight it with all my energy," end quote. A new poll in Iowa shows residents strongly in support of medical marijuana, but strongly opposed to legalization. The Iowa poll shows that 59% of voters support allowing the medical use of cannabis. However, 69% of Iowans oppose recreational legalization. Both results are similar to poll numbers from last year, despite the rollout of marijuana legalization in Washington and Colorado. In 2010, medical marijuana polled at 64%, but was worded to include a doctor's approval, while the latest polls just asked about legalizing medical use of marijuana without mentioning any doctor. Meanwhile, in North Carolina, a new poll shows 51% opposition to marijuana legalization, with women's support lagging 14 points behind men's, and only political independents and people under age 40 supporting legalization. Polling last year showed 76% support for medical marijuana in the Tar Heel state. On Tuesday, the International Narcotics Control Board, a watchdog agency of the United Nations, said it, quote, "deeply regrets," end quote, marijuana legalization in Washington and Colorado. The INCB says legalization violates international drug control treaties and makes it more difficult to conduct worldwide anti-drug efforts. Last week, General John F. Kelly from the U.S. Southern Command testified to Congress that Latin American countries are more reluctant to engage U.S.-led anti-drug efforts in the hemisphere. Quote, "Most of the countries I deal with were in utter disbelief that we would legalize marijuana," he explained. "They're very polite to me, but every now and again, when they're not so polite, the term hypocrite gets into the discussion. They're starting to chatter a lot about, well, why don't we just step back and let it flow?" End quote. This has been your 420 Radio News for Tuesday, March 4th, 2014. I'm Russ Belville. Transcripts of 420 Radio News are available at ncc420.com. Visit now and download today. You're listening to The Russ Belville Show on 420radio.org. We'll be right back.